on Zoom. Everybody on Zoom, give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. So you didn't miss much except for the characteristic cry from the bima that my predecessor has engendered in this space, and that I am happy to follow suit. What a joy it is to be in this space with all of you. What an honor it is to have you here and to have you joining us for services as you have all year long. And we're delighted to worship with you, to sing with you, to celebrate with the Kamabrecko family on the eve of Tali's becoming a bat mitzvah. For those of you who are here this evening because it's a yahrzeit and you are remembering, it is the fullness of our life cycles that keeps us robust and rich and connected as a community. And here we are, and here we are. So just a couple of notes. We'll invite you, please, at home and in the sanctuary to join us in song, in prayer, in silence, in movement. Join us in movement as well. We'll ask you, please, when we turn to words of song, difficult as it is, that you hum with us. Hum behind your masks or sing ever so softly. That is, for now, the rules that we have. And I will begin with these. We may understand our days to be a pilgrimage in time, from the 6 days of the work week to the experience of the day of rest, a holy time. The generation that left Egypt and wandered in the wilderness never reached their destination, the place of God's rest. But every Friday evening, we have the opportunity to make the journey anew, this time with an openness that will enable us to truly enter the land and to come close to the divine. And that is what we aspire to do each and every Shabbat. Join us, please, as we turn to our opening prayers, our opening songs. We'll continue now as we turn to the kindling of our Shabbat lights. We'll invite Becca and Anthony to join us at this time, and invite those of you in the pews to please open your Sidurim, the smaller blue-bound book that you have in front of you, to page 120. Page 120, page 121. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher gereshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat.
And we will turn to the words of Kiddush, the words that help us sweeten and sanctify this day, for which we'll ask Tali to lead us, page 123 in your Sidurim. And we'll invite you, please, in body or in spirit, to rise. Please be seated. Page 127 as we continue. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. We'll continue now with the singing of Lecha Dodi. If you have been with us before, or probably in any congregation, you will notice that at the very last verse, we will start on page 138, the very last verse of Lecha Dodi. It is our custom to actually actively stand and turn to the door of entrance, the door in which you came into the sanctuary, the door into which you came into your mikdash me'at, your small sanctuaries in your homes, to stand, to turn to that door and to greet the Sabbath bride. In the meantime, though, we'll ask you please to join us in humming and in moving and in snapping and in tapping as we welcome the Sabbath bride.
שמורה וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד לשמו לתפארת ולתהילה. והאדוני יקרא לו, הנה שבת נקבלה. והאדוני יקרא לו, הנה שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ולכה, כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. So מעשה במחשבה תחילה, והחלותי נקרתה לה, הנה שבת נקבלה, והחלותי נקרתה לה, הנה שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי ברך, קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדונייך, עלייך נגלה, והחלותי נקרתה לה, הנה שבת נקבלה, והחלותי נקרתה לה, הנה שבת נקבלה, בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לחלותי נקרתה לה, הנה שבת נקבלה, לחלותי נקרתה לה, הנה שבת נקבלה.
And please be seated. Page 145 as we continue. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
יתקרא ויתקדש מרבה, בעמדי ורכירותי בהמליך מהותי, בחייכנו וימיך, ובחייך בית ישראל, בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמו במבורך, לעולם עולם מעלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרמה ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קדושה בריחו. לילה מן כה ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ויאמרו Amen.
Join us, please, as we turn to our call to worship. We'll invite you in body or in spirit, please, to rise. Page 148 as we continue. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot. laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuta, Le'olam Vaed.
And we'll invite you please to be seated, and Tully will continue leading us in the Ve'ahavta, which you can find on page 154.
Asher Elohim Mitzavecha Hayam Alevavecha Veshinatam Levanecha Veribatam Bam Veshiktecha Veitecha Uflechtecha Vadera Ukshefecha Ukremecha Ukshatam Leot Avetecha V'hayivet utafot ben eleh Uktatam Amazot beteha Uvishavecha Leman tizkeru Ve'asitem Ekvototai V'yepem kirushim Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzekiahem Me'eret Mitzrayim Ve'yot lahem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Ya la la la, ya la ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, osef eleh. Ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la, ya la la la, ya la la.
That yearning to sing, that yearning that we are all struggling with in some way, shape, or form, is in and of itself prayer, the richest, deepest kind of prayer that we can find, wordless as it is, but that feeling that is unmistakable, where you're debating between humming and singing, moving and not moving, snapping your fingers, or finding the right prayer posture, that all by itself is our prayer. Let's join together, page 160, and let's give voice to this passage together, both at home and here in our sanctuary. Grant, O God, that we may lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming, to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Page 164, as we continue together with the tefillah, I will invite you, please, in body or in spirit, to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Haggadah, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gamel Chasadim Tovim, Mekaneh Hakol, Mezocher Chasdei Avot v'Imachot, Mevii Geula Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezras Sarah, atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayakol atah Rab le'Hoshia, Morit v'Tahal, Mechalkeh ha'im b'chesed, Mehayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech nopnim v'rofech holim, U'matir asorim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Mi chamocha b'geburot, U'midam melech, Melech mimit u'mechayeh, U'matzniach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Adonai Hayar hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, v'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha sela, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. And please be seated. Page 173, as we continue. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shchinato l'tzion. Blessed are you whose divine presence is felt again in Zion. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and for so much more we offer our thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Ki atam melech Adon, lechol shalom. Ki atam melech Adon, lechol shalom. Shalom rach leYisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rach leYisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Bechol le'arech et amcha Yisrael, bechol עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael bashalom. We take a few moments now for silence, for meditation, for prayer. Let us turn our prayers and our hearts to those who are in need of healing, of strength, of patience, of kindness, of care, of wholeness. As we say, Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, v'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech, v'yirapeh et cholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing and strength to those who are struggling. This evening, this Shabbat, we are holding in our prayers Shena Esther bat Ruchel, Chaya Necha bat Riva Leah, Katriel Parachia ben Herschel Laser v'Shoshana, Sarah bat Abraham v'Sarah, Alan Skirker, Laura Braun, Miriam bat Ella, Stephen Brent, Rini Feingold, Meredith Cabanis Ader, Irving Manis, Ralph Bookbinder, Masha Batsheva, Greg Novozenitz, Susan Silton Tobias, Kim Stanger Delisle, Gabriel Berger, George Okrent, Hank Ferrioli, Nancy Cohn, Lynn Fragan, Vicky Eckstein Kennedy, Stephen Loeb, Tammy Henson, Brian Mansfield, Dean Harris, and Abigail Herman. If there are others that you would add to this list, I'll invite those in the sanctuary, please, to share first those names of any of your loved ones who are in need of strength, of compassion, of wholeness. As I look your way, would you please share that name aloud?
Mark Friedman, Elizabeth Friedman.
Alan Gabel, Linda Platt.
Michael Gamilla, Naomi Bunis.
And I will ask those at home, please, to also share, if you would, the names of your loved ones. You'll be unmuted for a moment. And if you would please, those on Zoom, please share the name of your loved ones and those names that are added in the chat as well. We will be holding in our prayer.
Elaine Schloss.
Heather Rubel Ross, Yonatan Fine.
Mike File.
Malka bat Esther v'Nechemia.
Barbara Fox.
Sarah Pascal. Those who have no one to say a Mishaberach for them, to say a prayer for them. We ask that the Holy One mercifully restore them where possible to their health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being together with all others who are ill. And may God grant strength to those also who tend to them. Though Shabbat is a time we know to refrain from crying out, we yet hope and pray that healing is close at hand. And we all of us join together in saying, Amen. So this is our first Friday night of the month. We know it is here at Temple, the time that we have a family Shabbat, what is called family Shabbat. It is when we hope that there will be some of our younger community members with us. But we also aspire to reach the younger in our heart members, those who sometimes want to hear a story instead of a drosh. So tonight I share this short story with you in that spirit. And hope that you'll find it interesting as well as I did. It was Friday evening and Moish was going home for Shabbat. Every Friday he would take actually the long route home through the woods and enjoy a little bit of nature before sitting down to dinner with his family. On this particular Friday, he was wandering through the woods and he heard a little melody and he wasn't quite sure what it was, but he wanted to try to find it and he wanted to learn it. He would wander left and he would wander right, and eventually the sound got closer, or he got closer to the sound, and it was so beautiful, a sound so beautiful to him that he couldn't help but stop and listen. It sounded something like this. And Moish kept wandering through the forest trying to find his beautiful music, the source of this beautiful music. He kept wandering and he kept hearing. And he wandered so long that eventually he actually kind of lost his way and he didn't know which way was home and which way wasn't. And he didn't know which way was out of the forest and which way was deeper into the forest. And he spent all night, in fact, in the forest, singing that song to himself and all alone in the dark. And he wandered all night long and eventually he found his way out. And eventually he found his way back home. And eventually he found his way back to his family. And that morning his wife, Rebecca, serendipitous, and his son Benjamin came to him and they saw him walking up the street. And she said, "Moish, where have you been? We've been so worried about you. We were expecting you for dinner, and where did you go?" Moish wanted to tell them all about his experience, this incredible experience that he had in the forest of getting lost and hearing that melody. But all he was able to say was, and Rebecca was so confused. What was Moish trying to tell her with this melody? And Benjamin wanted to tell his father all about starting Shabbat, of lighting the candles and eating the challah. But every time that Benjamin tried to tell him about what happened, all Moish could say was, and every time Rebecca or Benjamin tried to have a conversation with Moish, he just kept singing that song. And every time Rebecca or Benjamin wanted to talk to Moish, all he could do was hum that song, and they never spoke, and they never shared any words. And all Moish was able to do was sing. And eventually Rebecca just didn't know what to do. So she took Moish to the doctor and told the doctor, "I don't know what to do. Moish just keeps singing that same song. He hasn't actually spoken to us since Saturday. He hasn't spoke to us since he came out of the woods." And the doctor asked Moish what was wrong and tried to discover some of his symptoms. And all Moish could do was sing. And eventually the doctor told Rebecca that he didn't know how to help Moish, but that there was a specialist in the next town over. So the doctor suggested that Rebecca send Moish over to that doctor. So Rebecca packed Moish's bag, called a cab. It was in days, when they still had cabs, right? And prepared to send him up to the next town. And Benjamin wanted to say goodbye to his dad, who stood holding the door, and he wanted to say all the things that he had been feeling this whole time. He wanted to say that he missed having long Shabbat conversations with his father. He wanted to say that he really missed reading those books with his father, and he didn't know if Moish could even understand what he was saying. He didn't know if he could understand a single one of the words, because all he was doing as he was getting in the car with his father, all his father was doing, we know. And so as Moish was getting into the car, Benjamin, his son, opened his mouth and said, and Moshe looked at his son, and he studied his son's face, and he said, "Thank you, Benjamin." Benjamin was shocked. "Dad, how is it that you're saying these words? For so long, you were just singing that one song." And Moshe told Benjamin all about his experience in the woods, of getting lost and of hearing that most beautiful melody, so beautiful that he never wanted to forget it. So he started singing it to himself, sang it all throughout his journey, throughout that long way through the forest, sang it on his way home. And when he got back to Rebecca and Benjamin, he looked at his son and he said, I was worried. I was worried that I would forget that song. But now that I know that you know it too, we can sing it together. This weekend, we are so richly blessed to be back in our beautiful sanctuary after a long but much needed absence. And while we were separated physically, I would imagine that each of us inevitably engaged in quite a discernment process, clarifying what we missed, what we haven't missed, what we can live without or even prefer. For me, it is leading services barefoot, but I can get used to wearing shoes again. And we in the Jewish community, we are actually accustomed to being dispersed and in places where we can't gather in the way we hoped, but not quite like the way this past year has challenged us. So the story of Moshe's song, more pointedly about Moshe worrying that he would forget the song, though family friendly, is actually a way to invite the most essential of our Jewish questions. What is it that we hope to pass L'dor Vador, from one generation to the next? What are you worried about that you may have forgotten? Is there a song that speaks to your Jewish heart, literally or figuratively? And what is it that you hope to pass L'dor Vador? So I want to ask you, I want to invite you actually to tell me, to tell one another. We'll start hopefully with you at home, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you, unmute you, or you can unmute yourselves, or perhaps Mark, you can help unmute those who are on Zoom, and then we'll ask you here in the sanctuary. What has become clearer to you this past year that you want to ensure from your Jewish heart that you pass L'dor Vador from generation to generation? So those at home, I'll invite you please to unmute yourselves first and tell us what you hope to be able to hold on to, and one thing that you would like, you feel compelled to pass from generation to generation. Jewish traditions and celebrations, Jewish history, someone adds into the chat. Mark, can we unmute them? Yeah? Okay. So friends at home, please just you go ahead and go one at a time. I don't think we hear our friends at home yet. You have to unmute yourselves, please.
I think it's the connections to the temple and to the people of the temple.
Amen. Thank you, Stacy.
I think the knowledge that we are, as a people, so resilient, and so, and our strength is in our numbers, even if we're not physically present in the same place.
Beautiful. And friends here in the sanctuary. Oh, sorry, Joyce on Zoom, go ahead.
The centrality of love as a manifestation of God.
Beautiful. Jamie, thank you. You add for us the majesty of nature and humility in the face of its depth and vastness. Yes. And friends at home, while you take a second just to remute yourselves, we'll invite you in the sanctuary. What is it that you hope to pass the door by door? Well, what has become clearer to you this year that you can't imagine not having in our Jewish community, in your Jewish circles, in your home? What is it that has, yeah, please, Ed.
The sense of community, the sense of community we help you get through hard times.
Yeah. Ed shares the sense of community that can help us get through hard times. Yes, Marlene, please. Speak loudly so that our friends at home can hear.
The beauty of the music.
Yeah, the beauty of the music. Yeah. Yes, yes, says Becca Camabreco, tradition, like having a bar bat mitzvah, in this case a bat mitzvah, right? Continuing to be actively Jewish in the face of challenges like these. Absolutely, thank you. And thank you, an emotional attachment to Jewish peoplehood, right? It's a sense of there's a thread of this connective tissue between and among us, yeah, yeah. Now, I grew up with, not in a religious home, you've heard me say that before, not in a religious home, but the one thing that we did was have Friday nights together. We always had dinner together on Friday night. And I didn't realize until I was an adult how impactful that was for me as I was stepping wading more deeply into my Judaism, that sacred time. And it wasn't replete with, we didn't pray and maybe we lit candles some weeks and maybe not. And sometimes we had wine and sometimes not. But it was always a festive dinner and we were always together, and the conversation that ensued that night, it was a longer stretch of dinner for us, and how sacred that space and that time together with family was, and how much it shaped my Shabbat observance, and then later my family's, the family that I'm growing, their observance as well. However we observe, right? The importance of separating out Shabbat from the rest of the week. Yeah. Anything else at all that you're thinking? You can't imagine not passing Lador Vador from generation to generation. Please, Jean.
The appreciation of science, research, and to pass on to the next generation and generation after that, to be involved in these fields, to help people.
Yes.
To help save people.
Yes. Yeah. Jean shares science and research and the importance of being a part of science and research and adding to that knowledge and to that tikkun, right? That repair, if you don't mind my inserting a word, right? That the need to repair the broken in the world by knowing science and following science.
I think as our families spread further apart, that the Jewish tradition hold them together.
Right. So apropos, as our people have spread farther and farther apart, right? We and our individual families spread farther and farther apart. We are spread farther and farther apart. Some of us here and some at home, right? How important it is to stay together as a Jewish community, the value of identifying with the Jewish community. It's what the Pew Research just indicated as well, right? How we self-identify, and do we self-identify as Jewish? And what does that mean? Yeah. So I am warmed, and the hair on my arms has settled, but the beat of my heart has quickened, as I know that now you too, along with all of us in all of our places, can sing or hum or access that song that Moshe found in the wilderness together, that each of us has the capacity to find it. and to hold it, and most importantly, as you just said, to share it, right? That is how we keep that song alive. So I thank you. I thank you for singing with me, for singing with all of us, but most importantly, for lifting up the song of Judaism that keeps us forward moving, forward moving. It is a pleasure at this time to ask any of you who have birthdays in the month of June. Anybody here just raise your hand if you have a birthday in the month of June, or at home, raise your hand if you have the birthday in the month of June. Raise it high. You're it? You're it in the sanctuary? And nobody else? Okay, we have just one in the sanctuary and others at home. And we say, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, our God and God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless all of those who have a birthday in the month of June. Bless them with an appreciation for this new stage in their lives. And may they draw deeply from the well of learning, growth, and deepening of spirit, carrying with them all that has given them meaning and joy to this day. Opening new possibilities for sweetness and light in the days to come, we hope and pray. Good health, good strength, that song in your heart, courage and deepening compassion for the world and all who share the world together. And we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. And we offer you this blessing. May God bless you and may God keep you. May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious and tender to you. May you feel God's presence in all the places that you go. May you find peace and wholeness, shleimut, and goodness. And may we all of us join together in saying, Amen.
Amen.
Join us, please, in body or in spirit as we turn to our concluding prayers, the Elenu. That can be found on page 586, and we'll invite you to rise. Let us turn our thoughts now to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days, and those who died at this season in years past. We gather them together in our hearts and in our prayers as we remember them this Shabbat. During the period of Shloshim, we are mourning the loss of Sally Graff, and this marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing for Joseph Altman, Richard Ambush, Rena Barkin, Ruth Battler, Max Blankoff, Molly Bodner, Fanny Brenner, Arlen Brodsky, S. George DiGiovanni, William Feldman, Maurice Fleischer, Ed Frindell, Sally Gerard, Jean Goldberg, Albert Golden, Rose Goodman, Marshall Gordon, Cecile Grossfried, Ruth Grossman, Benjamin Katzel, Jonathan Kessler, Lois Levin, Sidney Myers, Bernard Miller, Carol Namias, Andrew Neisner, Eileen Osseroff, Harold Ribb, Arthur Shire, Max Schnoll, Mildred Schrag, Sarah Schwartz, Marcia Silberman, Abraham Silver, Belle Stein, Pearl Stone, Robert Wagner, Jack Weinstein, Dick Whitnick, and Alan Zeldman. Dick Wittink. If there are other names that you would add to either list, please, as I look your way in the sanctuary, would you share that name aloud with us?
Thomas Gibbs, Ken Barron,
And for those at home, we'll invite you, please, to share any of the names of your loved ones whom you are remembering at this time.
Michael Stringer,
Nancy Lindenauer,
Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing as we join together. Page 598 in your Sidurim for Kaddish. And we say these sacred words together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, Uya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved as we join together in saying, Amen.
Amen.
And please be seated. I want to share some announcements with you this evening. Tomorrow morning, we have Torah study at 9:15, and we continue to do so through the end of June. That remains on Zoom, and that information can be found on our website. And also tomorrow morning, we have Shabbat services with Natalia Camabreco becoming a bat mitzvah, the daughter of Anthony and Becca. We couldn't be more delighted. You mark the beginning of our first set of Benot mitzvah and B'nai mitzvah as we return to the sanctuary after quite a long hiatus. And we know it's going to be beautiful. And we know that all those who came before you who had their B'nai mitzvah on Zoom were beautiful and sacred in such unique ways. And we can't wait till tomorrow morning. Monday, June 7th, we've got the Torah Chanting Club at 6 p.m. Our B'nai Mitzvah parent meeting, Camabrecos, you are excused from that meeting this year. And that is for those that are upcoming. And Prayer Book Hebrew continues at 8 p.m. on Monday evening. Please mark your calendars for Wednesday night, June 9th, as we continue our next adult ed speaker series endowed by the Goldsmiths, by Carol in particular, in memory of Dennis Goldsmith. And we are delighted to have Rabbi Lawrence Englander, who will be our scholar, teaching about, Jean, apropos of your comment, about the Big Bang and creation. So he is a wonderful, gifted scholar, rabbi, and teacher. That's 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening, and you can join us there. And then we return next week to Erev Shabbat services at 6 p.m. here in the sanctuary and at home on Zoom. Torah study at 9:15. And then a week from tomorrow morning, we have the Benot Mitzvah of Sapna and Sivan Yosha, who will be called to the Torah as well. Also, please mark our annual meeting, June 17th at 7 p.m. and June 18th, please register for our Get S'more Shabbat, which will be outside. We can't wait to see even more of you carefully outside, but we can't wait to have as many as we can safely fit outside in that space with your take-home s'mores to go with you. We want to thank Marilyn Rosen and Joyce and Victor Polishuk for being our greeters this evening in the sanctuary. And thank all of you for greeting one another at home as well. And last, Rachel Greer, we want to mazel tov Rachel Greer on her engagement to Jason and to her parents, Carol and Keith, a mazel tov to them as well. And actually there's Sacred Service Symposium presented by the Rochester Oratorio Society, June 7th, 8th, and 10th. You can look at the link on snippets from that. Any announcements from where you are sitting? Anything that we should know about either on Zoom that you want to add to the chat or anything here in the sanctuary, just before we conclude?
Yes. Yes, on June 13th, the next opportunity for Speaking of Race, a wonderful opportunity in an intimate setting to explore where our hearts are and where we want to go around racism.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ongoing. Thank you. Ed, you can't show us your challah. You're here in this, friends at home, Ed is here in the sanctuary. Usually we are accustomed to seeing his challah on screen, and tonight you'll just have to imagine. You'll have to imagine. So show us your chalot online. Join us in Motzi, please. Kamabreco family, join us, please, and let's make Motzi together. Come on up onto the bima. And everybody at home, please join us in making Motzi as well. So you'll just remove the cover. There should be a beautiful challah, though maybe not akin to the ones that we are accustomed to seeing. Amen, amen. And enjoy some of the challah. And enjoy your challah at home, and join us in our closing song, Ani ve'ata. You and I together will change the world. You and I together will remember that song and sing it together. Hine ma tovu manayim was the song, Rick wrecked, right? Yeah. But Ani ve'ata, you and I together, please join us.
Ani ve'ata neshanet ha'olam. Ani ve'ata z'yavo ukvar kulam. Page 652, 652. Ani be'atan enaseh me'hatchala. Yela nora ein davar ze lo nora. Amru et ze kodem lefanai ze lo meshane. Ani be'atan neshane et ha'olam.
We wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a good and a healthy Shabbat, a good week ahead, a festive week to the Kamabrecos, and to all of you, a Shabbat Shalom, and may this be the start of a much fuller sanctuary for all who are able and willing, and to all who are at home, a full and beautiful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Please feel free to unmute yourselves and say hi.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom, everybody.
Good to see everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Good to have you with
Shalom.
us.